welcome back. In this module, we are going to be talking all about detox. Now, before we even get into this topic, I just want to clarify one important little bit of information. And that is, when you hear the word detox, it's likely that a number of things come into your mind. But I just want to specify that there is a little bit of a misnomer when it comes to the way that we use the word toxin. In fact, the word toxin refers to naturally occurring toxins in our environment. For example, snake venom would be an example of a toxin. When we speak about chemicals that are manufactured or extracted and that may find their way into things like herbicides, pesticides, etc., the name for those chemicals is actually a toxicant. But because most of the time these words are used interchangeably, and specifically most times people use the word toxin when they're referring to a manufactured or extracted chemical like a pesticide, etc. For the purposes of this module, I will use the word toxin when referring to unnatural chemicals or synthetic man-made chemicals, and not toxins that are naturally occurring, like, for example, Botox or snake venom. So just to clarify that point before we go on, because I am going to use the word toxin quite a lot, and there may be a little bit of confusion as to what it exactly means. So for the purposes of this module, when I refer to the word toxin, I'm really referring to manufactured chemicals and synthetics and man-made products, as opposed to naturally occurring toxins. So, when you think of the word detox, maybe you start to think of things like specific diets. So maybe you've seen these detox diets that are all over the internet, and perhaps you've even seen detox teas, that promise to eliminate your body from all kinds of toxins and chemical buildup and inflammation and that type of thing. Or maybe you've even seen tummy cleansers that have been advertised and punted to be able to detoxify your body. Maybe even smoothies that are out there claim to have this ability to detoxify the body. And so there's a lot of miscommunication and misinformation out there around this topic of detoxifying. And unfortunately, diet culture and the whole health and wellness industry has fallen prey to this very opportunistic way of talking about detox in a way that kind of offers a quick fix solution to problems. And so I really just want to clarify that when we're talking about detoxing in this module, we're really talking about something completely different to a quick fix solution, or something that you can kind of do quickly to eliminate your body of excess toxins. Because the truth is that our bodies actually have their own detox mechanisms, right? So your body is detoxing all the time. It actually doesn't need you to actively detox or do something additionally in order to get rid of toxins. Your body is able to do this all by itself with little or no help from you. In fact, we have many different ways that we get rid of toxins in the body. For example, the skin is a detoxifying organ. It helps to eliminate toxins through the skin, through things like sweating, for example. And this is one way that your body will excrete waste products. Another detox organ is the liver. We know that our liver is very intricately involved in metabolizing and filtering our blood, breaking down things like medications and chemicals and hormones even, and eliminating what the body doesn't need. We also know that the kidneys are filtering your blood and releasing or excreting waste products through the urine. We know that our lungs breathe in air and they exchange oxygen for carbon dioxide, and our lungs actually also are detoxifying organs that get rid of waste chemicals through the air that we breathe out. Gastrointestinal tract is another example of a detoxifying organ. Specifically, the colon is intricately involved in excreting waste products through the feces. So our bodies actually are doing this process of detoxification all the time as part of the normal things that the body does. So you may be wondering, well, if the body does all of this by itself with little or no help from us, then do we really need to detox? Like, what is the point of speaking about detoxing if our bodies do this on their own anyway? Well, we're going to get into that later on in this module, but suffice to say that we're speaking about hormones in this program, and we're specifically speaking about hormone disruption in polycystic ovarian syndrome. And we know that the reproductive system is part of a broader system known as the endocrine system. And so in order to understand really what we're talking about in this module, we have to review the endocrine system. So just by way of a very brief overview of the endocrine system, because this system is probably one of the most complex, intricate, and difficult to understand systems that exists in the body. But a few basic principles are important to understand and just remind ourselves of as we go through this module. So the endocrine system is made up of a few different components, namely glands. Now, glands exist throughout the body. You may be familiar with some of them, such as the thyroid gland in your neck, the ovaries, as you know, in the reproductive system. There are even glands inside the stomach that release some digestive enzymes like gastrin. The pancreas, we've spoken about before, is responsible for releasing insulin. We've also spoken a bit about the adrenal glands, which are responsible for releasing stress hormones. And the pituitary gland is another example of a gland that is responsible for the release of many hormones, and in particular is also intricately involved in the release of reproductive hormones. And so these glands find themselves throughout the body, and the purpose of these glands is that they are there to release hormones. So that's the second component of the endocrine system, which is the hormones that the glands produce. Now, you can kind of think of hormones as these chemical messengers that are released from glands and travel to a target where they create or result in a specific reaction happening. So if you kind of think about what happens when you send an email. When you send an email out, it goes off and then it's received by somebody on the other end. And then that person hopefully will open the email, read it, and then something will happen as a result of that email being received and being read and being interpreted. So your hormones are basically floating through your body, and they are searching for their end targets. And the end targets that they're searching for are receptors. So you can kind of think of the receptors like we mentioned when we were talking about insulin and how it assists glucose with getting from the bloodstream into the cells. You can really think of these receptors as locks. And so the hormones kind of enter into those locks and cause a downstream or a knock-on effect from there. So if you think of the receptors as these tiny little locks all over the place, waiting for hormones to come and connect with them to produce a knock-on effect. And then finally, we have enzymes. Now, enzymes we probably don't speak that much about, but it's important for us to know that there are also enzymes that are involved in how our hormones are produced and metabolized and also broken down, because enzymes are these proteins that basically make things happen. So they act as catalysts, and they either break things down or build things up, but they basically are responsible for making the chemical reactions possible that are occurring within the endocrine system.